Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
You wouldn't be able to tell unless I told you, I don't think, but I'm shooting this video late at night because this news just crossed the wire. And I'm going to get bombarded in the next few hours by people saying, Steve, just see this? But great news. Batmobile raid. San Mateo County DA drops criminal charges against Indiana garage owner. Dan Noyes wrote this story. It literally just happened a few minutes ago. I saw it cross my Twitter feed and I jumped right on it. I thought, well, I should do this while my energy level is still up. Well, I'm all fired up from having read this. This is great news. This is the way the story should end. However, it never should have happened in the first place. And I'll tell you right now, I've been doing videos for 8 years. This is probably the most overwhelming story when it comes to everyone agreeing. I've yet to meet anybody who says, you know something? I think the guy who built the Batmobile, he should get in trouble for that. No. No one has said that. And despite the existence of contrarianism in this universe, no one said it yet. So from Dan Noyes, ABC7 out there in California, major development in the Batmobile investigation. The San Mateo County District Attorney has decided to drop criminal charges against the Indiana man who builds the licensed replica Batmobiles. That Batmobile garage owner credits the ABC7 team with turning the case around, and there's no question, ABC7 and Dan Noyes are heroes for doing this. And everybody who has gotten on board with this case, who has supported it, even simply by watching videos or retweeting things or talking about it on Facebook, the groundswell of support across the nation in support of the guy building the Batmobiles has helped. Because there's no way they could push this case forward without getting even more backlash. You'll recall that the sheriff sent 4 investigators on taxpayer money to raid a garage in Indiana after getting a call from a wealthy donor from Atherton who had ordered a Batmobile and was unhappy with how long it was taking. I'm not going to get heavily into the details because I think this is my 3rd video on the topic, but to order the Batmobile, you got to put some money down and then make some payments. And apparently, the man who runs the garage building the Batmobiles said that the guy who ordered the car missed a payment. Therefore, he got pushed further back in line and apparently got upset by that, and this is what all ensued. The criminal case against the only man licensed by DC Comics to build replica Batmobiles is over. Mark Rakup faced felony charges of obtaining money by false pretenses and diversion of construction funds. And as I pointed out in previous videos, those are almost made up laws. There are laws on the books, but to apply them to this case, construction funds? Really? Do you construct a car? I don't think so. San Mateo County District Attorney Steve Wagstaff told the I-Team, I am announcing we are going to dismiss the case. So they're going to dismiss it. Hasn't been done yet, but that's just stamping stuff and paperwork. But he says, I am announcing we're going to dismiss the case. Now, Dan Noyes broke the news on Twitter after speaking with Wagstaff on Monday. The DA said it simply does not rise to the level of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And when you have cases like that aren't rising to the criminal level, but who's right, who's wrong isn't clear, that's when people sue each other. And we refer those cases to civil court. And as noted previously, the man who's disgruntled in this case had filed a lawsuit in California over this case, and a judge threw it out. And the judge threw it out saying, I think this belongs in Indiana if it belongs anywhere at all. And so then he contacted the local sheriff and said, can you go out to Indiana and shake the bushes and see what happens for me? So that's what's going on there. The sheriff admits he launched the investigation after one of his donors, a realtor, called to complain that his Batmobile construction had been delayed. It was going to be a $210,000 build by the time it was over. And the sheriff sent a team of 4 investigators to raid the Batmobile garage in Logansport, Indiana. And as noted previously, they went to Indiana, consulted with local law enforcement, and then went and got the warrants necessary to raid the garage. In July, the builder Mark Rakup told the I-Team, I was horrified. I've never gone through anything like this ever before in my life. And I mentioned before that I did a video about the first part of this story. And Mark Rakup called me. I spoke to him on the phone at length. One of the nicest guys I've ever spoken to. And occasionally I get called by people who say, Steve, you did a video about me. I'd like to talk to you about it. I'm always worried. I'm always worried to say he got the story all wrong. But he said, no, Steve, he goes, quite frankly, he goes, you got every single thing right. And the questions, because I said there's some things we don't know, he goes, the questions you asked, he goes, I agree with you that the news reporting has kind of glossed over some things, so let me fill in the details for you, which he did, and I did another video. So he's a great guy, and it turns out that the sheriff had never done anything like this before either. High-level sources in his department say that the sheriff has never sent a team of investigators outside of California for a non-violent crime except for the Batmobile. That's the only time it's happened, according to sources. Now, the lieutenant, by the name of Allen, is his press officer. And Dan Noyes, the news reporter, said, has the sheriff ever sent a team out of state for a non-violent crime besides the Batmobile? I'll get an answer to that. And Allen said, again, I'd have to check, but I'll get back to you. Dan says, I'd appreciate that. Yeah, tomorrow. Allen now says he needs a week to find out the information. So it's possible it's happened before. Nobody can recall a time, but within a week or so, they might have a better answer on that with some more details. The sheriff, meanwhile, has refused repeated requests for an interview. So last Thursday, Dan Noyes went to the retirement function for the man's second in command, thinking that the sheriff would attend. Now, Allen told Noyes that the sheriff was on vacation, saying, I'm not in charge of his travel calendar or his schedule. We also broke the news to Batmobile builder Mark Rakeup that his criminal case is over. His response, quote, holy cow, Dan, what a relief. This has been a 10-week nightmare, and it's finally coming to a close. End quote. So, holy cow. I love this guy. Rakeup is free now to concentrate on his business and his church where he's a minister. Thank you so much, Dan, for what you've done. If you had not followed through on those whistleblowers, if you hadn't believed them, this case would have continued, and I would have to be in San Mateo on Friday morning. And I thank you so, so much. Mark Rakeup is not sure about filing a lawsuit against the sheriff of the county. This case is already costing taxpayers the expense of sending the team to Indiana. The county hired a personal lawyer for the sheriff because of this issue, and they even hired a retired judge to find out how this all happened. They're already trying to figure out what happened here. Looks like we have at least one more story to do before we can call it a wrap. Meanwhile, the sheriff continues to refuse requests for an interview from the TV station. So Dan Noyes went to the retirement function for a second in command, but the sheriff didn't show up. So there you go. Good news for Mark Rakeup. Good news for people who thought this case was a pile of... It's late at night, but even I can't say that. But the important thing is this, that we have to understand. One of the things underlying all of this is there's a sheriff who has been ousted from office by the electorate. He's a lame duck sheriff. So someone came to him and said, hey, can you do me a big favor? And the guy's thinking to himself, well, I'm out of here anyway. I'll do one last favor for somebody. That's what it looks like happened. Now, I don't know. Maybe something else happened, but that's what it looks like to everybody. So this is one of those examples where once in a while people go to ground, they say. They go quiet when people start asking too many questions. But by dodging the reporters on this one, it makes him look really bad because everybody knows what happened. So unless the guy speaks up and gives us a better story, we're going to have to go with the one that we have. And that is a friend asked for a favor from a lame duck sheriff and said, can you waste a bunch of taxpayer money and fly a team of investigators halfway across the country and have them harass somebody I've hired to build a Batmobile? And the sheriff said, sure, why not? And as the entire nation got up in arms going, what? Suddenly, he's realizing it wasn't that good of an idea. And when somebody dumped this pile of a file on the prosecutor's desk and said, here, prosecute this, you know that guy stepped away from that like it was a toxic waste dump and said, I ain't touching this. And so you'll recall that not so long ago, there was supposed to be a hearing coming up, which they adjourned. And everyone knew why they adjourned it. They adjourned it to buy time. And everyone was hoping that if they bought more time, the story would go away. Story didn't go away. And it wasn't going to go away until it either went to trial or the charges got dropped. And the charges have been dropped. So for once, the right thing has happened. I'll let you know right now, I've done a bunch of stories lately about bad things happening to good people. I like it when good things happen to good people. I love it. And so I know that a lot of people in my audience are going to be celebrating this right now. Celebrate it as you see fit. But again, it's good news. It ended the way it should have. But it still should not have happened. It should not have happened. So I hope they continue to investigate to find out why on earth this happened. And as for whether or not Mr. Rakeup ought to sue the people in California, that's a tough call. And I'm just being honest here. Because if he wants to sue the sheriff and the people in California who made these bad decisions, the standards are quite high, and it does embroil him in litigation, and the defendants are going to get their attorney fees paid by taxpayers. And somewhere along the line, you got to ask yourself, is it worth pursuing this? Now, on a matter of principle, maybe you do. I don't know. But that's the only real big question mark here for me, is whether or not Mr. Rakeup will do that. And it's up to him, by the way. I'm not saying that he shouldn't do that. I'm simply saying that's a consideration that is literally simply something he's got to decide on. Will he do it? Will he not do it? It's up to him. And if he's catching these videos, and I hope he is, maybe shoot me a quick note and let me know how that's going. And if there's anything I can ever do to help advertise your business or your cause, because I think you're a good cause, my friend, shoot me a note and I'll help you out there as well. Like I said, I've spoken to Mr. Rakeup on the phone. Very, very nice guy. And I've seen his work. The guy is a magician with fiberglass. So the name of his website is fiberglassfreaks.com. Check that out. And once again, it's a win for the good guy. And so here we go. And by the way, we've got to also salute Dan Noyes, the reporter, Channel 7, who's been doggedly pursuing this case. And it's one of those great cases where there's just a great case and one reporter, and we all know it's him. It's him. It's kind of like Woodward and Bernstein with Watergate, okay? The team and Watergate, they're together. Dan Noyes in the Batmobile case, okay? I hope he understands. I'm being serious. To have a case this big and this well, and it's largely due to him digging and digging and digging at the story. So thank you to Dan Noyes. My salute to Mark Rakeup. And we'll see what happens. But as of right now, the good news is the Batmobile raid, San Mateo County DA drops criminal charges against the Indiana garage owner. Mr. Rakeup at Fiberglass Freaks. Great news. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. It's never too late to have a happy childhood.